Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining another Lead Squared webinar. Now we have branded it as Lead Squared Virtual Roundtable. So welcome back if you've joined any of our previous shows. I am Shivani and you have received an email or two from me. So with that, let me get started on the topic of discussion today. We are discussing strategies to engage today's digitally savvy students. A blueprint for success. I couldn't have asked for a better panel here to take us through the session and help you get better at your strategies. Some of the things that you can expect to learn from or learn about rather are kindling trust through student communication, harnessing data for personalized student engagements, and of course, influencer marketing. So, we have a lot to talk about. As I said, I have a great panel to take us through the session. First, we have Dr. Santosh Kumar, who is the Pro President of VGU Jaipur. Then we have Neeraj Deshpande, who is the Account Director for Coursera. We have Ms. Mehak Anup Kaur, who is the Associate Director for Admissions at Masters Union School of Business. We have Gio, who is the Assistant Director of Geetam, deemed to be university. We have Snehadeep, who is the Assistant Director of Admissions at Kriya University. And last but not the least, we have our very own Srinivas Shinde, who is the Vice President of the Education Business at Lead Square. So with that, I'll jump off the panel and I'll come back again to take the questions from the audience. Srinivas, all yours now.
Thank you so much, Shivani. A very warm welcome to all the panelists over here today. And the idea was to, share a lot of insights, share a lot of experience today with the people today who have actually come in. They're interested to know about how things could be excelled. It's not that people are not doing. They generally want to understand how they can excel. Maybe there are some gaps here and there which, if they are able to plug in, they definitely can see some better outcomes. Now, most of the time, people interact with us, people come to us, they talk to us about what more can we do. Now, this question is generally there when we talk about lead management, we talk about awareness activities for any of the institutions today, be it study abroad center or be it a college or be it anybody today on the edtech side also, whose prima facie are trying to deal with students. And the question is, what best can I get? I don't want to go through the regular process of print. But is there anything that I can do on the digital side? And as you know, Shivani mentioned today, the Indian youth today are highly connected and influenced by digital platforms. Thing today is that there's some background noise.
No, it's perfectly all right. Please go ahead.
Okay, I could hear some noise, so I thought I'll just confirm with you guys. Okay, so as you know, Shivani mentioned, the Indian youth today are highly connected and influenced by the digital platforms. The Indian youth today are they're looking at what exactly how the institutions today need ideas. The shift requires us to rethink on our approaches to keep the engagement and ensure they remain invested in their educational journeys. Now, there are two activities to it. One, of course, when a student already joins, is a part of a particular program, and then you have a lot of digital engagements with them. But that's when he comes inside. The earlier question is in terms of how to bring him inside, how to make him attracted, how to make sure that my institution, my services, or whatever today I'm trying to give as an institution, how does that deem fit for him? How does he make sure that this is one of the best for him? So this is also where we talk about how to leverage the digital assets today to the leads that are coming in, how to engage them. There are so many strategies today that people talk in the digital marketing in terms of engagement, but definitely we would like to hear today from all of you. So understanding and analyzing data is also crucial in engaging students on the platform. They frequently actually which they would want to visit or which they are visiting today. So basically, institutions need to be aware of this. Where all can I go and touch base with them? Additionally, today, if we explore how integrating online learning platforms with the traditional teaching methods can bridge the gap between the structured classroom instructions and the flexible, personalized learning experience today that the students seek. So here we have audience. We have a stellar of experts who are here, and my sincere thanks to all of you for spending your time with us and enriching the audience with your experience. So let's begin the discussion, the roundtable discussion for today. And the first topic that we would like to touch upon is in terms of kindling trust, the trust through the student communication. So let's start with my first question, and this goes out uh, to Professor Dr. Santosh Kumar. Why is trust crucial in student communication and enrollment, and what the key element help build this trust? Over to you, Dr. Santosh.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Srinivas, and thank you, Lead Squared, for having me on being part of this panel. Uh, I'm an academic administrator. Uh, there have been very less moments in my career when I actually was dealing with the students before they joined the university. However, in last 3 decades of my experience with the various universities in India and abroad, uh, I'll be speaking from a more generalist perspective, and I'm sure my other colleagues will look at the whole thing because they will be on the job of doing this thing day in day out. And at this point in time, of course, I'm doing it as a president of this university or vice chancellor of this university. However, let me put it this way, for the benefit of my audience, all those who are participating in this roundtable. I think these two words are very important. Trust building uh, from the perspective of the students and from the perspective of the institution. And we all know that it fosters a positive relationship right from the beginning. More so in the case of the academic institutions, because if you know that this institution is not trustworthy or academically is not proving the things, or showing the things in the right light, obviously we have already lost the game, and because the students are very smart, they are this particular generation of the students. Uh, Word of mouth publicity is very small thing for them to do. You see, they just have to write one review and the things are finished. So trust building that way becomes very important. And more important thing is that obviously effective communication is another thing. So when the student trusts their institutions, obviously their engagement uh, with the admission team, with the people they would like to be in touch, becomes very engaging. It becomes really engrossing. In fact, many a times I have seen in my previous institutions that when the students came to seek admission on the basis of whatever we projected, that time itself they decided that what kind of career they would want to go into. That is the kind of trust building that institution actually provides to the students. Uh, and this leads to various other processes like enrollment, students not uh, deciding to drop out from the college. Now, this is another thing that we see nowadays very commonly occurring, that students are applying for many places, and wherever they think they would want to be at the later stage, everything else is in waiting till the result of that final institution has been declared. The point is, how do you reverse this entire process? I think the key words are trust, that that we put in the student, that look, this is the place. You may have been trying to go for X institution or Y, but this is what we believe in and this is what we would like to communicate to you. So basically, trustworthy institutions must provide uh, accurate information, which is very important, uh, about the programs, the fees, the facilities, etc., etc. And it has to be an informed decision by the students, which is very important, because they should not be pressurized to take a decision, or they should not be uh, put in a kind of situation when they were forced to take admission or something, and then later they feel cheated. I think this is where the institution will not go a long way. That's the major problem which I have faced. So trust building basically also includes uh, infusing a sense of security among the students, that look, your future is safe. that sense of security is very important. Sense of belongingness to the students right from the day they have walked into the premises of the campus, uh, especially about the students community. So some of the things that we have been doing for this trust building and communication is to put the students in touch with the prospective students, in touch with the existing students. I think more than the counselors talking to the new students or prospective students, this way of building the trust and this way of communicating with the prospective student is something which has been time tested, and I think uh, this becomes very important. Uh, so, loyalty of the old institution being transferred to the prospective institution is one of the ways in which we can build trust. I think I'm talking about the strategies also, and many points are being taken care simultaneously. It also encourages trust is also encouraged by the fact that transparency and accountability is part of our genetics. You see, so how transparent we are about everything, and who do we hold accountable, or how do we say that these are the people who are going to be responsible and accountable for anything that if it happens to you, then you can actually go to these tables, and these are the systems by which you can get your issues resolved or whatever. Now these are some of the small acts on the part of the institution, but go a long way in building trust among the among the students. And obviously, if you are able to build trust among the students, your enrollment is positively impacted. So I think these are some of the very important things which I think, and communicating to the students that it's not only that we are saying it to you, but there's an entire SOP, and this is how we follow these SOPs. These are the diagrammatic presentations, and if you want to go from one table to the other, this is how the things are. Your website, the first channel of communication to the students, becomes very important. Your call center people become another level of another level of trust building channels. So these are the ways by which we actually try to build a positive ecosystem within an institute among the prospective students, which is very important. Not many institutions are following, but then all the good institutions and all the greater institutions are definitely following this. And fortunately, I've been part of many of them in my previous jobs. So I can tell you with confidence that these are the ways by which trust and communication are very important for enrollment and for the prospective
Got it.
students, for them
Got
to
it.
be in part of us. Yes.
So that's in fact, Dr. Santosh Kumar, good to hear the insights. But let me slightly twist it across and put it across to many of our people, participants in the audience, who come with the background of saying, the typical admission time, if you see the peak admission cycle, if I talk about,
Yes.
you have it starting right from, say, the time when the student examinations are over, say in March. And then you have this time frame till the time the results are coming out, which is June. And student is scared. He wants to make sure he applies to the best of the universities. So he's not just going to apply to one university, he's going to apply to many universities. So while I look at that particular short journey of 2 months, what effective strategies for ensuring consistent and trustworthy communication in this time period for the person who has just come into your system as a lead? Now, the lead generally, after you nurture it, your admission team nurture it, it then becomes an applicant. And from an applicant, if you further nurture it and give him something really appropriate for what he's looking out for, in channels where there is no physical face to face activity, everything is digital. And then you take him to the journey of the admission. What would you like to put as your points towards this? Understanding that it's just maybe a window of 2 months, what would you suggest to institutions as some of the best practices to boost enrollments uh, through the students' communication?
That's basically a very that's the kind of situation which is faced by most of the institutions, because uh, uh, in some of the institutions where they start the process of visiting the schools, you see, making presentations about the institution, the various courses, etc., which starts sometimes in the month of September, October, because after December everybody is in a is in a 12th class study mode, uh, because 2 months after that they have to write their board examinations, so the students are less. But after they have written the exam and after the leads are getting generated, I think the institutions, what they should be doing is that consistently and constantly dropping them the messages, mails if possible, not to irritate or bother the students, actually not to that extent that every day you are sending them something, but telling them what best has happened in this institution, and that too in a very transparent manner, inviting them to be part of something like this, what we are doing, some kind of panel discussion which has been happening on the university's website, where senior professors are also talking to the new students or prospective students. So this constant interaction, which is of course of an academic nature, less of academic nature, but telling them about the brighter prospects about this institution should they want to join this, becomes one of the very effective strategies, something which I have followed. I mean, I have followed means one of my institutions has followed, and here when I'm at the helm of the institution here, I'm asking my colleagues also to do the same kind of thing. So every week if there is an event, we try to send email to the students who would want to take admission here. There will be a kind of academic event or some engaging event, so that the students are in touch with you and they are able to see that actually these kind of things are happening, which
Just,
also
just,
becomes
just to,
very,
just to
yeah,
interrupt you, Dr. Santosh.
yeah,
What I have seen, when I used to interact or when we used to handle the admissions of various universities, most of the emails belong to parents. Because student is just in 12th, he doesn't want to be disturbed. So most of the emails belong to parents. So when you are communicating, either the parent has to see, first of all, the number of hits that people see in the email is very less. Now, which means you have a student's mobile number,
yeah.
is where the communication now is going to be maximum of yours. So when mobile numbers are going to be an option made available to you, what would you suggest?
The communication through the WhatsApp and the other ways, short SMSs, and you see, basically it cannot be a passive engagement, that I'm only sending the message or the institution is only sending messages to my son or my daughter, right? Point is, how engaging is that message? Just say that this is the best university, you should join us, etc., and this is how we are going to gain. No, it's not going to happen that way. You have to invite them to be part of your agenda by organizing some kind of events somehow, and universities will have to be very, very they will have to actually prepare for those kind of events. Like tomorrow there's going to be an event in our university which will be talking about the future of studying science, because we know that science admissions are dwindling these days. People are going more into the other things like management and technology, particularly CSA. People are not even willing to take admission in mechanical. You see, everybody wants to become a computer science engineer or application oriented person. So what is happening? Physics education is problem, right? Physics admissions are going to be a problem. So tomorrow there's going to be a panel discussion organized by us where a lot many students are likely to join for that online event, right? They will be experts from the field. They will be, our in-house experts, and they will be collectively talking about the prospects of studying physics honors and how does it happen.
Got it.
What will happen to your future? So this kind of engagement, I think, becomes very important. And of course, as I said earlier, transparency and correct information to be shared is very important. I believe creating a small video of your university, which is of course available on the websites. Everything is, campus tour and everything, but sharing it sometimes with the students that you can always visit it, or some technology intervention to show that uh, this is the real time video of us or something like that. That is
Got it.
something
Got it.
which the institutions do. Yes.
So what you are suggesting is probably let the university, let the college make a repository of some good videos, and then have that put across into an automation where at frequent intervals these are kept sending to your leads or your database so that they get to know about a university because
Of
students are
course, yes.
more
And the
tuned.
and the event just we are just having right now, where six of us or many of us are actually participating in this, discussing about various things. Suppose this event was actually talking about prospects of studying public policy. That is my subject, right? Prospects of what are the benefits of studying public policy or the fun of studying public policy and the prospects attached to this. What is going to happen? So this is a live event which is happening just now,
Got it.
something like that. So targeted and generalist kind of thing is possible.
Very nice views of yours. Good
Thank
to
you.
see this and good to hear you out. Thank you so much. Uh, on the similar track, I would just like to extend with some changes in the question in terms of transparency and integration in communication. I'd like to put forward this question to Mr. Gio Cyril Podipara. In your experience, what role does transparency play in building trust through communication, and how can an educational institution implement it effectively? Over to you, sir. Gio. You're on mute, Gio.
Thank you, Mr. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Srinivas, and thank you, Lead Squad, for having us. It's a wonderful location to meet other people, like-minded people who are working in higher ed. So that's a wonderful location, and we don't often get chances because outside maybe we are competitors, but this is a good space to kind of interact and learn from each other. Coming to transparency, I think primarily, I would say there are three factors that I would want to sort of emphasize in why transparency is important towards building trust and also how it will engage or enhance your communication with prospective students as well as the larger community at large, not just prospective students, but any person who's part of an institution, right? The first one I believe is building a sense of belonging because currently a lot of higher education research talks about moving away from the idea of involvement and in terms of engagement. So far, you would have heard how do we involve prospective students or how do we students feel or prospective students feel that we belong to this institution, and how do we build that belonging comes from transparency. It's only when we are honest and transparent with them that transparency that sense of belonging comes in. The second is to sort of provide them a purpose. When you are transparent, you are answering the big question usually of adult teenagers, which is why are you doing this, why are we asked to do this. And when you provide them with a purpose that okay, this A leads to B leads to C, and when you provide them with the evidence to back it up, it's much more convenient and easy for them to understand. And this is only possible through transparency. The final point is it shows an acknowledgement and an understanding of them as an individual who is independent. A lot of times we unfortunately don't do that, where we don't we in the world to seek things. So I think these are the two, three tenets by which we can sort of approach this. And how do we implement it effectively? I believe one is to be clear in your communication, clear in terms of your transparency. Second is to be frequent. I do agree with Dr. Santosh when it says we shouldn't bombard them. But I think the sweet spot of frequency, what is the ideal time frame where we sort of reach out to them? The second is to be proactive. Currently, especially with national education policy turning a lot of courses into 4-year courses with multiple exit options, there is a lot of vagueness or a lot of confusion, a lot of ambiguity. So it's important to also be clear in our communication, be proactive. Don't wait for them to come to you saying, "Oh, why is suddenly the course is 4 years? Why is it no longer 3 years?" Initiate it from your end. If you're implementing NEP from this year, be that person or be that voice in the community to be like, "Listen, this is why it's happening."
Yeah.
Point that Dr.
There's some issues coming in, Geo, from the network side. Some issue coming in from the network side, from your side. Let me move on to the next question. Geo, you're able to hear us?
Hello?
You're able to hear us, Geo? Okay. Once, if you're able to hear us, just give me a reply back to this, and I'll put in the next question to you. Otherwise, we'll move to the next speaker. Okay, Gio. So what I'll do is I do have another question to you, but I will take this up slightly later once we have maybe a good network from your side. So thanks, Gio, for your input on the first question. I would now like to put across this my next question to Snehadeep. So this is the question to you. It's on effective communication channels and data optimization. So, Snehadeep, which communication channels are most effective for students' conversions, and how can institutions determine the right mix for their target audience? Over to you.
Hi, Srinivas. Good evening, and good evening to the audience and my fellow co-panelists. So, Srinivas, before I come to talk specifically about the communication channels, I want to take a step back and talk about the importance of these channels. Today, as per the University Grants Commission website, we have around 1,100 universities or more registered with UGC. How many of those universities actually use an SEO approach, actually use a digital approach? That is something, and I've been working in this space with outreach and admissions for the past almost half a decade now.
Oh,
And I'll tell you a very admin mentality, which I think these webinars only help for all of us, like Geo said, to come together and discuss. Only private universities in the country are viewed as institutions which will invest in, let's say, a plan of outreach or a marketing plan in their institutional development planning. And it never goes the same for government, central, or state universities. Now, I think before I come to the communication channel, it is very important that these times have changed now. To interact with the students, the administration, the kind of an invisible barrier which exists between students and administration of a state or a central university also needs to be neutralized. A very simple example, I just saw somebody who's joining in from Nigeria. If a Nigerian student wants to know on data or on internet, which are the best Indian universities to study, why shouldn't there be a mention of a state university or a central university? Why should there only be sponsored private Indian universities? So I think that is a cumulative approach, which I think in my experience is very important to put forward. Now, for data collection, a platform like Lead Squared, or there are multiple other edtech CRMs or ERPs, which are, because I have been working on the platform for the past 5 or 6 years, managing leads, admissions, retention, which I'm sure Meg will later cover. I think that is step number 0 to understand any communication channel, to have a system which accumulates all, because again, as Dr. Santosh, had mentioned, outreach quintessentially begins in July or August for a November or an October cycle, and the channels are different. There would be counselors who would go to study, within the country, domestic study fairs, which happen all over the country, collect data, come back, with their data, and then again, the kind of interaction, it also depends what is the CRM or ERP you're working with. So I think now, before I narrow down the channels further, the second point which I would want to put forward is how important it is for institutions, to onboard, to work with a CRM or an ERP to begin with, to understand what is lead nourishment, lead nurture, nurturing the right leads, understanding demographics, diversity has a very direct connection with admissions and the retention, which quintessentially the university, kind of culminates as part of to also ensure numbers and quality are both met at the same time. Now, in terms of channels, I think from my experience, digital marketing has a huge potential when it comes to channels. As part of an institutional development plan for both private and public universities, digital marketing is something which is of utmost importance. Now, again, these could be with the right keywords. For example, I come from Kriya University, which is a fairly new liberal arts and science university in the Indian space. So again, if somebody wants to look into, let's say, if you're just using the only keywords, liberal education in India, you'll of course find my university alongside the other peers. So digital marketing is a huge platform, which is number one. Social media. I mean, I don't think there is anybody I would dare say on behalf of all the panel, or the audience as well, who would say that social media is not important. Yes, of course, content optimization differs. For example, if I'm managing the university social media, my target audience is two. It's not just students; it's the parents also, who are equally or more involved in at least an undergraduate admission. Postgrad, PhD, I think parents do take a little bit of a backseat when it comes to domestic admissions. Now in LinkedIn, for example, what is the kind of content? So if I'm attracting a parental audience, I would rather want to talk about the university's leadership, or the collaborations or international exchange, while Instagram could be informal, for something like student life, the different fests which are happening, which I'm sure, as all my panelists and the audience will know the know-hows of a university. So in terms of communication channels, Srinivas, social media, I believe, is very important. Yes, content optimization is very important. We cannot place content which we cannot place students having a holy party on LinkedIn, to be like very blunt about it. So that is something which, as an institution, I believe we need to practice. Now, again, influencer marketing is something which is coming up. While I personally, I think we still need a little bit more time as institutions to also understand that if we are kind of investing in paid sponsored marketing, where somebody who has XYZ followers on a social media account is coming and talking about university. So as a higher education administrator, I will question the credibility. I will also see what is the credibility of this person and relationship with the product, if I may use that word. So I think these are the different communication channels. Now, in terms of as a final point to your question, and once you onboard a CRM, I think a CRM does a fabulous job in optimizing all the leads and compartmentalizing them. Which are the organic leads coming from the website? Which are the leads which are registered during a visit of one of the outreach or counselor team members? Which are the ones which are coming from a paid network? For example, Study in India, Siksha, or other third-party websites, all the other TPAs. So I think those are the different which are coming from digital, which leads used keywords, for example, Study in Vizag, and they kind of saw Gitam's, kind of website, or similar for a master's union, for example, or a Kriya. So I think those are, that would be my apt response to the channels as you talked about.
Got it. So as on channels, yes, definitely, good insights. We gave one case study to Dr. Santosh Kumar in terms of post the examinations and before the results. But suppose if I have to put across, this is a question out of the box. Why? Because there are many people who would like to understand that when you talk about engaging students digitally, now these are students who primary must have come to you because of your primary database. You must have gone to some colleges, some PU colleges, done some seminars, got some data. And of course, in market, there are places where you collect data also. You can collect raw data also. Now, assuming you have a repository of raw database, what and how would you like to communicate? Because as June, July, you start going to the market, you start getting data. Data in terms of two ways: their name, their mobile number, and their email ID. Email ID, we know most of the time it is parents, sometimes it is theirs. As we keep going forward, we'll see more of students' data, students' email address. Currently, parents put it as a backup, but now that mobile numbers have become very, very important in this, and if you start getting your primary data or secondary data right from July, August onwards, and you need to keep servicing it till March, what are the two pockets that you would recommend to institutions, which is the key for this data to be serviced and then optimized?
So, again, a direct response to the technical bit of your question, and then I will maybe talk a little bit from my experience in such database management systems and campaigns associated. I think the first job CRM does wonderfully, which are direct leads and indirect leads, for example, which are verified leads and non-verified leads. Before you come to the database, so the word before a data would be a lead, which again, like you said, if I'm using a third party agent to buy from the market, my lead will probably usually a university will have leads in lakhs, or maybe crossing 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs for an admission of 1500. That is the ratio, like a general ratio which I've observed. There would be around 2 lakh, 3 lakh leads for application count of, let's say, 2000 for a further enrollment of 200. That is the ratio that I've seen usually. Now, the first thing, Srinivas, that CRM does wonderfully, any CRM in that matter, would be to kind of compartmentalize which are the verified leads, that is people who have verified with their OTP. And so again, ideally the goal is to ensure that those leads result in conversion, those leads result in application, and as somebody who's heading this, the person would only want to look into verified leads. So that is one thing which CRM does wonderfully, any CRM, and I'm sure Lead Square does too. Now, the second part is the campaign bit. Dr. Santosh very rightly said, and I think Gio also kind of substantiated, that it is very difficult to keep sending them promotional emails, because all they'll do is unsubscribe at the bottom, and they'll miss out on all important information, even if they are an applicant. And honestly, I do this in Priya. Every 7 days, we have a check of people who have unsubscribed and we resubscribe them. So it's very important to also understand your content. What am I sending them? Am I only sending them the university's know-who, which they can also go to the university's LinkedIn or Instagram page? And then it comes to the kind of how do we engage them? And that lays, Srinivas, the foundation of numerous winter schools, summer schools, which today every university in the country, at least in the liberal arts and science space, I can tell you, which they are kind of, which they organize. Those are, little or even one-day courses, seminars, webinars. So these are, again, a way of optimizing content to ensure that none of my content gets repeated. So if that, kind of answers your question. And of course, in terms of timeline, if you start doing this by July, ideally an admissions season would have 4 to 5 rounds, which would start somewhere by October with the launch of the applications, and they'll go till June with closing the applications, July and August mid, the university's opening of the session. So, and that is where you will have an existing data, and of course it will be kind of refilled by your teams and by other sources, if that helps to kind of answer your question.
Nice. Very nice. Why I put this across, though it was not a question that we had thought about it early, but then when we talk to to the universities, we do come across these thought processes being asked, especially if you look at a brand like Geetam. Geetam today is spread over in the country, and the kind of lead management they have, we talks about lakhs, they are in about 50 lakhs plus. And if they have to service all that 50 lakhs, and you have two kinds of students. One whom you service, and then he's sure that he's going to apply for Geetam. And then you have another one which you service so that he should apply for the Geetam. Though he's going to apply in 10 places, but you want to make sure that his first priority is Geetam. So that's the kind of, that was the need for me to actually ask you this question, to see how early should an institution try and engage with the data, whatever source it could be, primary, secondary. But if it comes to you as early as July, August, suppose as Dr. Santosh Kumar said, we go in July, August, we get some data when we do some seminars. We have to service that. If you service it only by March, it's too late. But if you keep servicing, then what is the uh, thought process behind servicing? What is the matter that you are going to push them in terms of branding your institution, positioning your institution? That was the purpose for asking this. Thank you so much, Snehadeep, for those inputs. My next question, and this goes to Ms. Mehak Kaur. It's on the data-driven personalization. So here's the question. How are education institutions leveraging data analytics and AI to personalize students' interaction? And what types of data are most useful for creating these engagements? Over to you, Meg.
Yes, thank you, Srinivas, for the question and for having me here. And warm hello to all the co-panelists as well. Has been wonderful hearing from you. I echo a lot of thoughts that have already been put across, and I've learned a couple of new things as well, which I'm excited to go ahead and apply too. But to actually, at least start answering the question that you've asked, right? I'm sure that I can go on for hours dissecting the data that we can actually utilize. But to keep it succinct and to give a broad idea, I would like to start by saying, why is personalization even important, right? Why do you even want to personalize it for the student? What will it do, right? See, for me, and this is something, I got very passionate about upskilling as something very early on in my career, because I'd actually seen it in action in fact, one of my earlier roles that I played in Mondelez International, right? And the reason for that was because it was wonderful to see that how effective upskilling can really be in your journey, right? And that has also made me learn a lot about it. That has also unraveled a lot about the learning requirements, the learning languages that people really have. And they're so different, right? You have three students in front of you. One person might probably learn better by reading. The other one might learn better by actually doing. The third one might learn better by listening, right? Or watching a video, right? So many different learning languages, so many different learning requirements, so many different personas, so many different motivations, right? And hence, that's where the need for personalized learning really comes in. You can't really have a person who does not have a learning language of learning by listening actually go through a program where they just have to listen to a teacher. It's not going to keep them engaged, right? And hence it becomes very, very important for us that, even before students are enrolling into a course, or, they're even starting their journeys, we really understand who they are as people, and we then effectively help them choose things accordingly, right? And that's why personalization is very, very important. How do we now incorporate this? We understand personalization is important. Now, how do you incorporate this? It is too difficult. We've been talking about Geetam getting 50 lakh plus leads. We've been talking about the leads at Clear going 1 lakh plus, right? I'm sure I cannot have my team write 1 lakh emails or 50 lakh emails to personalize it for the students. Obviously, that's where analytics and data analysis really comes in, wherein you actually make cohorts of people, right? You actually develop personas, right? For us, I think our CRM obviously helps a lot, because there you can do a lot of analysis around the fact that, hey, this is where the person is incoming into the funnel. This is the stages that they are moving into. This is the stage, or this is the event which actually got them to move from a lead to an applicant. This is the stage which, or the event that got them to move from an applicant to primarily an interviewer. And this is something that converted them from being an interviewer to actually a student of the organization, right? So if you can actually get that data, right, and develop personas of people who are actually enrolling into your cohort, you can actually have different marketing strategies, right? And I think one, obviously, which is the most common one, exists on the form of the sales funnel, right? Wherein you have an awareness stage, you have an interest stage, and then you have a conversion stage, right? So that is a little easier for me, because that's just the stage where the student is at, right? Have they just entered into my funnel? Then they're in the awareness stage. Then the kind of marketing that I'm doing with them, that's broader, right? I'm sending them more information-based emails. I'm sending them more admission info sessions. I'm sending them a bit more, things to know about the organization. Now, when this particular person has now, gone ahead, attended an admission info and started their application. They're now into my interest stage. So now the kind of nurture or the drip marketing that I will do in the interest stage will be a little different. I'll make it much more experiential for them, right? And that's where I think Santoshi and Gio also mentioned it very effectively. That's the stage where you actually build trust, right? That's where you make sure that you tell them that, hey, we are being transparent. Come, we'll show you what we do. You just don't have to listen, right? Let us show you that these are the kind of people you will be interacting with. This is where, as Santoshi mentioned, that probably have them talk to a couple of people, talk to students, and not a administrator from that perspective, right? So that's the stage wherein you actually gain a lot of trust from the students. So the marketing tactics, the experiential nature of things is a little different. So this is also the stage where I'll probably, do a couple of more meetups. I'll probably invite them to the campus to come visit, do a tour, right? We'll probably do much more digital events with masters, have people come in for networking, etc., so that they can experience the entire thing, right? And then obviously there's a conversion factor, wherein now that these students are a part of you, right? And they have given their interviews, you've given out the results, and now the result needs to result into a seat taken at the university, right? So that is where the intimacy angle really comes in, right? And you then help guide them, right? That, hey, this is how you can actually personalize your journey, right? If I tell them that, hey, listen, okay, I have 100 students in a cohort, and all these 100 students, right, will go through this particular curriculum all together, right? It's not something which will attract the student a lot, right? You will need to understand from them that, hey, listen, what is it that you are looking at outcomes, right? And how are we going to cater to those outcomes, right? So that's how you actually build a personalization funnel, right, for students, right? Not easy. I'm not sure if we've cracked it. I'm not sure if anyone has, right? But yeah, I think data really, really helps. What it has helped me do is three fronts. First, obviously, on the marketing end, it really, really helps us create those cohorts to send individualized messages to. For me, if I'm to talk about a couple of personas that we've created, right? So for me, one persona really is, let's say, people who spend 5 years in an industry, in a particular industry, because we've seen a lot of conversions come from that industry, right? So I will go ahead and target that digitally, right? I'll send them advertisements. I'll probably, have someone who's a current student at Masters Union and from that industry, right? Have a testimonial from them and put that across to that particular industry. If my second persona is people who are small scale entrepreneurs, right? I would have a different ad targeting those and probably speak about how Masters Union can really help you scale your ventures or start a new one, or get you into a network of venture capitalists, right? And if my third persona is really students, right? Now I'm talking about different courses altogether, but yeah, if it is class 12 students, right? Then what do I do? Do I, go ahead and look at the cultural or the pop references that can really help me make a mark in them, and hence they go and have that conversation with their parents that, hey, this is the new age college, which is actually helping me do what I want to do, right?
Got it.
So that's really how personalization data points that can be used to create those personas. It also really helps my sales team, to be very honest with you, because I give them those personas, and when if they can, go ahead and fit, outliers will always exist. But if they can go ahead and fit most of the people they are talking to into those personas, they also know the points that they can really use and the things that they can actually put out, which will actually create that interest faster.
Wonderful. That's a very beautifully put across on the topic of personalizations, which can significantly enhance engagement. And thanks for giving those lovely examples on which has improved the student's outcome or the engagement ratios. Prima facie, engagement is good between you and the lead. Definitely, outcomes has to be good. Thank you for that insights. With this, I would like to move to my next question, and this goes out to Mr. Neeraj Deshpande. The topic is on leveraging online learning platforms. So, Neeraj, how can an education institution leverage online learning platforms to enhance student engagement and provide personalized learning experience? Over to you, Neeraj.
Thanks, Srinivas, and good evening to fellow panel members. Honored to be here and listening to some of the very interesting points in the university space and how to engage the digital savvy students. I think today we are a digitally savvy nation, not just students. Second is how can a university or how can an institute kind of leverage an online learning platform? I think the choice is not there for universities or institutes nor anybody. I think it's has to, given the fact that now the world is coming towards India, the world's best content, world best courses are coming towards India, coming from Coursera, which is a global learning ecosystem in itself, approximately 14 crore learners across the world. Uh, the benefit of digital learning is out there for everybody to see. Given the fact that it is interactive, given the fact that it is flexible, given the fact that it allows collaboration, you do not have to belong to any particular strata of the society to consume any particular content. Today, the university can provide that ecosystem to each and everybody at a fraction of the cost what it was possible a decade ago. So that is where I feel that the benefit of or how the university can leverage an online learning platform. This is the way, by partnering, by allowing students. Now, in the recent the developments that we've had, we have kind of created a for credit use case for the university, so that now there was a question of whether or not students will consume digital learning. Should we make it optional? Should we? So that is where government has also said. And so also kudos to the government, which has created a lot of progressive policies, starting with the national education policy, allowing university to have a 40% MOOC, allowing university to use that for credit. So that gives them that kind of an authority, and that gives university the authority to make sure that they are directing students to these courses, to the content. They are now able to visualize what a globally recognized content looks like. We talked about, Sir Santosh sir talked about trust. The first point was trust. I think one of the trust also comes from the validation fact that yes, the university that I'm going to is offering me world class education, not only from the faculties that they have, but also allowing me to look at what is happening across the world, giving me access to the world class content. um, Assessment becomes a one big piece of digital learning. One thing that I used to, and let me also tell you a bit about, I'm making it about myself as usual, but I come from enterprise space. So I used to hear a lot about that, we are not getting the employable resources. And like Mehak, I was part of a skilling startup for a very long time. And I kept hearing about those points about not having employable resource. So now, with the advent of digital learning, with the access to digital learning, with the access to courses, platforms like Coursera, I think university have multiple options, multiple ways, multiple algorithms through which they can give access. They can make sure that their student resources are employable.
Got it. So yes, my the extended question on the same topic of leveraging the online platforms. Online platforms are indeed very transformative, and can you also discuss the benefit and challenges of integrating these platforms into traditional education systems to improve the students' outcomes?
Yes, absolutely. So, benefits, in fact, let me start with challenges, because the
Okay.
moment we talked about digital learning, it comes across as a threat to traditional learning system, which it is not. We complement digital learning ecosystem, always complements a traditional learning. I think that's the mindset we need to work on, and that's the biggest fight I ever have when I'm talking to a traditional university. Luckily, like I said, that we are a digitally savvy nation now. It is not an alien concept anymore. 4 years back, 3 years back, I think before COVID, it was something which was perceived to be a threat, where faculties used to think that if you are going to teach what we are, then what are we supposed to do? Okay. Now, because of the awareness, I think there is a lot of openness towards such platform. However, there is resistance, so that's where we need to work on it first. We need to always establish that we are partners. We are partners. We are going to complement your effort, and we are going to make sure that it reaches out to the end user, which is the learner there, and ensures that they get best of both worlds. That's one. Second is, of course, the digital learning ecosystem. That also is improving. I've been to some really interiors of the country, and I've been surprised. To be very honest, coming from an enterprise background, you're always used to the fancy buildings, and you don't really see world beyond that. But coming to the university space, and I've moved and I've worked and I've met people, and I was surprised by the openness. However, there were certain challenges with the digital learning ecosystem. That was taking time, but I think that they are also making progress there. So yes, digital learning ecosystem has to be there. Support from the top. The culture, like I said, any culture has to be established from the top. It can't be set up bottom up. It has to be top to bottom. So there we need to do a bit of a work. We're ensuring that we are able to present right use cases. We are able to present right case studies. We are able to present right success parameters. And above all this, we need to ensure that who are these universities catering to. There are certain universities which have students from the rural background. There are certain universities which are supporting students who may not engage, or who may not kind of pay as much fees as possible. So within that ecosystem, within that paradigm of economy, what are the kind of solutions that we can provide? So internally also we keep on reworking our solutions. Okay, so for credit came in this year. We are also allowing faculties to build their own courses for the universities. So that is one big advancement, because that's one thing that we saw, that it may so happen that the student may feel alienated looking at a content coming from abroad in a university which is slightly operating in the remote part of the country. So there we say that why don't you make your own courses and let the students see the courses being made by the faculty of your university, and the certificate will come from your university. Okay, giving that assurance that even though the student is learning from our content, you can still build your assessment. So that fear that I don't know what student is going to learn, versus let him learn, but I am going to assess. So that capability, that empowerment, or through our tool, saying that okay, build your assessment, let the student operate from Coursera. So I wouldn't say the challenges, but each challenges has proved kind of for us a building block to a new tool for us.
No, I in fact agree to you that nowadays in the core academic system, even when it is face to face, even AICT and UGC has come forward saying that universities, institutions should adopt to hybrid. There has to be certain amount of things that has to be done virtually. And that's where I think
Absolutely.
companies like Coursera can play a good role, because what we teach today in the academic system, if it is supported by some good case studies or an application oriented programs, I think the universities or institutions can complement that. And that's where today,
Absolutely.
when we talk about
Absolutely.
engagement of students can go back to their house and still they are engaging with the university. Probably that
Absolutely.
kind
So
of a
it's a
culture will
continuous
really give.
learning.
Correct.
It's
So
a
this
so
is
so
my
what we
second
are
question, which
fostering is
we
the yeah.
yes. So this is my second question, which we missed out for Mr. Geo when we're talking about Geetham University and its practices, and especially we're talking about transparency and integration, the integration in communication. So Geo, this was my second question to you. How does integrating multiple communication channels impact student conversion ratios? And what are the benefits and challenges of this approach?
Thank you for coming back, and I hope I'm audible now.
Yes.
I think there are two sort of key areas that I think even Mr. Neeraj sort of emphasized about. I think despite us being now a digitally savvy nation, perhaps we are still a very diverse nation. And it's very crucial and important for us to kind of continue to leverage that and remember that in our outreach sort of activities, which lays the importance on having multiple channels of communication, and also how integrating that is important. The second is, I think, this large emphasis or push for internationalization that is happening across the country at this moment, where not just at, I think, study abroad or students coming over, but also having regular students which are from foreign nationalities. And I think Snehdi mentioned this, where if a student or as a person from Nigeria is looking up institutions in India, what pops up and what comes to each person's mind. I think, especially when we talk about the current age demographic, how many of us can say that our websites, our institution websites are mobile first, perhaps? Because most of the people currently open these on these kind of devices. So I believe that is where sort of the integration sort of factor comes in. The benefits and challenges is obviously how do we do resource allocation in terms of where do we put the money or the other resources, in terms of a lot of our institutions have internal marcom teams. Do we leverage those? Do we go to external agencies? How do we keep a unified message across platforms? That's, I think, a second concern. And the third is things are changing very rapidly. I was reading up recently that one of the institutions in the US, they have come up with an AI bot which responds to students about queries and concerns. I know one of the previous institutions I worked with, there was actually a Facebook bot back in the days when Facebook was very common, which would respond to students telling them about the menu for the day. I'm saying this is a very small example, but it's showing where we are heading towards. So while yes, search engine optimization is something that we are probably 5 years late to, AI is already here, and where are we moving towards? That is a big question. I just wanted to add 2 points before I pass it back to Mr. Srinivas. One, I think, is a huge point that we sort of miss out on is how do offline points translate into online leads. And a crucial aspect for that, I always think people forget about, is merchandise. And if you go to I come from a part in Kerala. I've often seen people walk around with Harvard T-shirts. They have never been to Harvard, probably no one from Harvard, but they know what Harvard is, right? And that's a very interesting paradigm to think about, where even actually Mehak might want to add more to this, where Tetter, which is the sister concern of Masters Unions coming in. I was watching their reel the other day where they have sent out initiation or induction gift boxes to the newly inducted students. So there are organic reels and content that is generated by the students, which is equivalent to the good old days word of mouth, where someone would mention this to someone. That's now translating into you doing something offline, which kind of converts into something that is online, and that speaks volumes. And I think the second part, which will become a crucial part in India going forward, is with NEP coming in and allowing for exit entry options, which will be very similar to community colleges in the US, where someone would finish couple of years and move to a better institution. A lot of admission kind of conversations will now move into retention, and not just retention after the first 1 month, but retention after 1 year, after 2 years, after 3 years, and after 4 years. So it is going to be I would say it's a very interesting phase in the higher education system in India at this moment, where you're going to think about all these factors. And I think one last point I would talk about is that there are so many more stakeholders that are now coming into play. I think Neeraj represents Coursera here, which is a very new addition to the traditional systems, institutions that we represent, and how important that has become, that kind of associations. And I think it is going to become even more where do these brands talk about? I would close by one simple example. I think a lot of people don't realize the power of simple search engines, where one thing I've done personally is I have a Google alert for my institution. So something that pops up across the internet about my institution, I get to know about it. And this goes across platforms, right? I think we always tend to restrict ourselves to the conventional platforms, but now there is so much conversation around Quora, around Reddit, around Discord. These are where the new students are. And if there is a Quora thread about your institution where someone is saying something, how confident are we that maybe our current student or an alum will go there and say that, okay, this is not the right version of the institution, which harps back to my initial point about, will your students feel that they belong to the institution? If they do feel they belong, they will be your ambassadors who will put out your message, and you wouldn't actually need to spend so much on outreach and marketing.
Wonderful. In fact, very, very nicely said. And thank you for the, being available for the second question. So good. Let me just summarize what we have spoken about so far. So remember, the key to engaging today digitally savvy students lies in trust, personalization, integration, and leveraging technology effectively. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing, especially on the audience side, if you could implement these strategies in your institutions, because I have seen a sea amount of change in the admissions office in various institutions. The admission office 10 years back, 5 years back, 3 years back, and 2 years back. A lot of new designations are coming in. Your counselors have to be tech savvy. Your management has to make sure that the implementation of technology is 100%. You cannot have counselors with less than 80, 85%, 90% implementation of all these digital strategies. They have to do that, and they must do that. And this is what I would request all the institutions, especially if their admission office people are listening to us. One, of course, is communication. You need to engage your students, whether they are leads, whether they are existing students, on the digital side also. If it is leads, if they come in at an early stage, you cannot keep them waiting. You need to engage them. So try and look at all the digital assets which can be brought in into the institution. Fairly try to optimize your processes, digital processes. If it is done effectively, you will engage your things very properly. So here I give my concluding remarks, and so thank you to all the speakers for sharing such a valuable insight today. I hope this discussion has provided you all with the actionable strategies to better engage your students, your leads, your applicants, so that convergence and things go on. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to engaging you very soon in our next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Srinivas, and thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.